Mi vist sin ropa. Si no te casas conmigo, castigarán a los dos. Dijo la chica Apache /. The wind whispered softly through the tall grasses and the few scattered trees, carrying with it the scent of the earth after a rare morning rain. A lone traveler rode slowly along a narrow trail that wound through the rugged land. His horse, a sturdy brown stallion with a long mane, walked steadily, as if sensing its rider's uncertainty. The man, tall and lean, had been traveling for days, crossing mountains and valleys, rivers and plains, in search of something he could not yet name. He was not used to the quiet, though he had always loved the open spaces. In towns, the streets were filled with noise, laughter, and the chatter of people. But here, the silence felt heavy, almost alive. Occasionally, the distant cry of a hawk or the rustle of a small animal would break the stillness, reminding him that life existed in these remote lands, even if hidden. As he rode, he thought about why he had come here. He had heard stories of the Apache people, of their courage, strength, and deep connection to the land. Some told tales of their battles with outsiders. Others spoke of their traditions and ways that seemed strange to the townspeople he had left behind. He did not come to fight nor to judge. He only wanted to see, to understand, and perhaps to learn. The trail began to narrow, twisting between rocky hills that rose sharply on either side. The traveler urged his horse forward, carefully watching each step. The stones were loose, and one wrong move could send him tumbling down a steep slope. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the path ahead. He stopped, squinting against the sunlight, and saw a figure, a young girl standing among the rocks. Her clothing was simple, but her posture was strong, and her eyes, dark and intense, met his with curiosity and caution. The traveler felt a moment of hesitation. He had expected to see the Apache from afar, perhaps hear their songs or see their camps, but not meet one face to face in such a sudden, unexpected way. The girl's expression changed as she took a step closer, and he realized that she was not alone. From behind the rocks, other figures emerged, men and women, all watching him carefully. It was clear that strangers were rare here, and that trust had to be earned slowly, if at all. The girl spoke first, her voice firm yet melodic. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Her words were in English, though with a rhythm that suggested she had learned it from travelers or neighbors. "I am just a traveler," the man replied. "I mean no harm. I am only passing through." He kept his voice calm, knowing that any sudden movement could be misunderstood. The girl's eyes narrowed slightly. "Passing through in our land," she said. Her tone was sharp, as if testing him. "You know that our people do not always welcome strangers." "I understand," he said carefully. "I will be respectful. I only wish to see your land and your ways. I do not intend to interfere." For a long moment she studied him, as if weighing the truth of his words. Then she gestured for him to follow her down a narrow path that led toward a small clearing between the rocks. The other figures watched silently as he dismounted and led his horse behind him. The girl moved with a confidence that made it clear she knew this land intimately, every rock, every curve of the trail. As they reached the clearing, the traveler noticed a small stream that sparkled in the fading light. The sound of water, soft and constant, seemed to bring life to the otherwise harsh terrain. The girl knelt beside it, filling a small leather pouch with water, and then looked up at him. "You must drink," she said. "The sun is strong and the land is unforgiving." He nodded and accepted the pouch, grateful for her kindness. The simple act of sharing water, he realized, was a gesture of trust, even if cautious. He drank slowly, savoring the coolness that contrasted sharply with the dry heat of the day. After a moment, he noticed that the girl's expression had shifted. Her eyes were wide, and she looked away quickly, covering herself with her hands. Confused, he stepped back slightly, wondering what had caused such a sudden reaction. You saw me," she stammered, her voice trembling. You weren't supposed to," the traveler's brow furrowed. I am sorry. I did not mean to." Her words cut through his apologies before he could finish. "If you do not marry me, they will punish us both," she exclaimed. The intensity in her eyes startled him. There was a mixture of fear, urgency, and determination that he could not ignore. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The girl's gaze softened for a moment, revealing a vulnerability hidden beneath her strength. "I do not wish to frighten you," she said quietly, "but in our traditions, such a situation is serious, very serious. My people, they have rules that cannot be broken." The traveler felt a wave of unease. He had never imagined that a simple mistake, a misunderstanding, could carry such weight. He looked around at the rocks, the stream, and the open land, realizing that he was far from help, far from any place that could offer guidance. Yet in that moment, he also sensed the depth of the girl's courage. She was not simply demanding or angry. She was defending her world, her honor, and the values she had been taught since childhood. He began again, searching for the right words. "I do not know your customs fully. I do not want to cause harm." She nodded, her eyes reflecting both relief and continued tension. "Then you must listen carefully. What happens here matters, not only to me, but to my family, my people. You must understand this land and our ways if you are to stay. Otherwise, the consequences, they are not easy." For the next hours, she guided him through the area, pointing out the plants that could be eaten, the herbs used for medicine, and the trails that led safely through the rocks. He listened intently, realizing that survival in this land required respect and knowledge, not just courage or skill. Every word she spoke, every gesture carried meaning. As night began to fall, the girl led him to a small, sheltered area between two large boulders. She had arranged a modest place to rest, using blankets and mats that seemed simple but were surprisingly comfortable. The traveler, though exhausted, felt a growing sense of connection, not just to the land but to the girl who had shown him such trust and care, even amidst tension and danger. He looked at her and saw determination mixed with uncertainty. Her people's rules were strict, yet she seemed willing to risk their scrutiny to ensure he understood them. He could not imagine the courage it took to confront both her traditions and a stranger at the same time. "I will do my best," he said softly. "I will respect your ways. I promise." Her lips curved in a faint smile, though her eyes remained serious. "Then we will see," she replied. "This night is only the beginning. There are many lessons to learn and many challenges ahead. But if you are willing to listen, perhaps you will survive and perhaps we will understand each other." The traveler nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that this journey was no longer just about seeing new lands. It was about understanding, trust, and respect. The girl's challenge, her warning, had opened a door to a world he could not have imagined, a world of courage, tradition, and honor. As the stars began to appear in the sky, sparkling like tiny fires above the desert, the traveler settled down on the blankets, listening to the gentle sound of the stream. He thought of the girl, her strength, and the strange, sudden responsibility he now carried. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, that mistakes could bring danger, and that the lessons he had to learn would test him in ways he had never faced before. Yet, despite the fear and uncertainty, he felt a quiet determination growing inside him. He had come here seeking knowledge, and he had found it, in the land, in the traditions, and in the courage of a girl who had confronted both him and her own people with honesty and bravery. The night stretched on, silent and watchful, and the traveler understood that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge him, teach him, and perhaps change him forever. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the rocky hills, sending beams of light across the valley. The traveler woke to the soft sounds of birds calling and the gentle trickle of the stream nearby. The air was crisp and fresh, filled with the scent of wild grass and earth. He sat quietly for a moment, thinking about the events of the previous day. The girl's words, her warning, and the seriousness of her culture weighed heavily on his mind. He realized that surviving in this land required more than just physical strength. It required understanding, patience, and respect for rules he had never encountered before. The girl appeared at the edge of the clearing, her long hair catching the sunlight. She carried a small basket filled with food she had gathered early in the morning. Without a word, she set it down and gestured for him to sit and eat. The traveler noticed how efficiently she moved, how every action seemed to be guided by knowledge passed down through generations. "Eat," she said simply. "You will need your strength today. There is much to learn." He nodded, grateful for her guidance, and began to eat the simple breakfast of dried fruits, nuts, and freshly baked corn cakes. He watched her closely as she moved around the clearing, arranging small tools and containers in a precise order. It was clear that she had been trained in the ways of her people from a very young age. Every action, every gesture had a purpose. After breakfast, she finally spoke. "You must understand, the rules of my people are not just traditions. They are the way we survive, the way we respect each other and the land. If you ignore them, you will bring trouble, not only to yourself but to me and my family." The traveler nodded seriously. "I want to understand," he said. "I do not want to cause harm. I will follow your instructions carefully." The girl studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. "Very well. Today I will teach you about the land, the plants, and the animals. Tomorrow you will learn more about our people and their ways. Each step is important. Do not rush, and do not assume you know." She led him along a narrow trail that wound up a rocky hillside. The traveler followed closely, careful not to step on the uneven stones. The girl pointed to different plants, explaining which ones were safe to eat, which had medicinal properties, and which were dangerous. She spoke in simple words, but each sentence carried meaning, teaching him not only the facts but the importance of observation, caution, and respect for nature. As they walked, the traveler asked questions, eager to learn. "How do you know which plants are safe?" he asked. The girl smiled faintly. "Experience and the lessons passed down by my mother and her mother before her. We must watch carefully. The land gives us what we need, but only if we respect it. If we take without understanding, it can hurt us." They stopped near a cluster of tall grasses, and the girl showed him how to use a sharp stone to cut the stems without damaging the roots. She demonstrated how to gather herbs for medicine, how to prepare them for different purposes, and how to recognize signs of danger in the plants or soil. The traveler listened intently, realizing how much he had taken for granted in his life outside this land. By midday, they reached a small hill that overlooked a wide valley. From here, the traveler could see the full beauty of the land, the rolling hills, the winding stream, and the distant mountains that seemed to touch the sky. He felt a sense of awe and humility. The girl sat beside him, watching his reaction carefully. "You see," she said, "this land is alive. Every rock, every tree, every animal has a place and a purpose. To live here, you must respect all of it. Do you understand?" "I think I do," he replied honestly. "It is beautiful, and I see now that it is also dangerous if you do not know it." The girl nodded. "Yes, many who come here without respect or knowledge are hurt or worse, but you listen. That is the first step." As they began their descent back toward the clearing, the girl spoke about the people who lived nearby. "Our families are close," she said. "We share food, work together, and protect each other. Outsiders often do not understand this. You must be careful with your words and actions. They judge quickly and sometimes harshly." The traveler felt a knot of worry. He had never thought that visiting a new place could involve such complex rules. "I will be careful," he promised. "I do not want to offend anyone." That afternoon, the girl decided it was time to teach him a practical lesson in survival. She showed him how to build a simple shelter using rocks, branches, and leaves. They worked together, arranging the materials in a way that would protect them from the wind and cold. She instructed him on how to start a fire safely, how to keep it burning, and how to use it for warmth and cooking. As they worked, she spoke about the importance of responsibility. In our land, everything we do has consequences. If you are careless, you can hurt yourself or others. The fire, the tools, even the water, you must respect them all. The traveler was struck by the seriousness in her voice. She was not just teaching him survival skills, she was teaching him respect, patience, and mindfulness. He realized that this was more valuable than any knowledge he had gained in his travels. By evening, they had completed the shelter, and the traveler felt a sense of accomplishment. The girl examined their work and nodded approvingly. "Good," she said. "You are learning. But there is still more. Tomorrow you will meet some of my people. You must remember everything I have taught you so far. Your actions there will matter." The traveler felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Meeting her people would be another test, another challenge. But he also felt a growing respect for the girl who had guided him through this unfamiliar land. She had saved him from mistakes, taught him lessons he could never have learned on his own, and had done so with a mixture of firmness and care that he found both intimidating and inspiring. That night, as they sat beside the small fire in their shelter, the girl told him stories of her childhood. She spoke of games she had played with her siblings, lessons learned from her elders, and the values that shaped her people: honor, courage, loyalty, and respect. The traveler listened, fascinated, realizing that these stories were more than entertainment. They were lessons in life. "You see," she said finally, looking into the fire, "we are not just strong with our hands, we are strong with our minds and hearts. That is why rules and traditions matter. They guide us when danger comes, and they teach us how to live together in peace." The traveler nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude. He understood now why she had reacted so strongly the first day. It was not anger or fear alone. It was a sense of duty, responsibility, and love for her people. He realized that he must be careful, not only for his own safety, but to honor the trust she had shown him. As the fire crackled and the stars appeared above, the traveler thought about the path ahead. There would be more lessons, more challenges, and perhaps moments of fear and doubt. But he also felt hope that he could learn, adapt, and perhaps, in time, earn the respect of the girl and her people. He looked at her sleeping nearby, peaceful but alert, and made a silent promise to himself. He would try to understand, to respect, and to survive, not just for himself, but for the trust she had placed in him. He knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time he felt that he was not alone. The desert night was quiet, the stars endless and bright, and the traveler felt a strange comfort in the silence. The lessons of the day, the trust, and the growing bond with the girl gave him strength. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he had taken an important step. He had begun to understand what it truly meant to respect another culture, to live in harmony with the land, and to navigate the delicate balance between fear, trust, and courage. The morning air was cool and crisp as the traveler awoke to the soft light of dawn. The desert seemed quieter than ever, but he knew that life stirred everywhere, even in places where it could not be seen. The previous days had taught him much, about survival, about respect, and about the courage of the girl who had guided him. Today, however, felt different. There was an energy in the air, a sense that the challenges he had faced so far were only the beginning. The girl appeared at the edge of their shelter, her eyes alert and sharp. She carried a small bundle of supplies and motioned for him to follow. "Today you will meet my people," she said. Her tone was calm but carried a weight of seriousness that made the traveler tense. "This will test what you have learned. Your words, your actions, your respect, all of it will be seen." He nodded, swallowing his nerves. Meeting her community would not be simple. He understood now that every gesture mattered and that missteps could create tension or even danger. Yet he trusted the girl. She had shown him the land, the plants, and the importance of patience and observation. He would try his best to honor her trust. They began the walk along a narrow trail that led deeper into the hills. The terrain was rugged, with rocks jutting out at strange angles and small streams cutting across their path. The traveler's muscles ached slightly from the previous day, but he moved carefully, paying close attention to each step. The girl walked ahead, light-footed and confident, as if the land itself guided her movements. As they approached a clearing, the traveler saw a group of people gathered near several small structures made of wood, earth, and hides. Children played nearby, running and laughing, while adults carried out tasks, fetching water, tending fires, and preparing food. The air was filled with the aroma of cooked grains and herbs, mingling with the fresh scent of the desert. The girl slowed her pace and whispered, "Do not speak until I say. Watch and listen first. Observe how we live. Respect comes from understanding." He followed her instructions, moving quietly, careful not to draw attention. The people in the clearing glanced at him briefly but continued their work. He noticed the harmony in their actions, the way they helped each other, shared tools, and communicated without unnecessary words. It was a world so different from the towns and cities he had known, yet it seemed to function perfectly because everyone understood their role. The girl approached a woman who seemed older and wise, her hair streaked with silver. She spoke briefly, and the woman nodded, then turned her gaze toward the traveler. The girl gestured for him to step forward. He took a deep breath and bowed slightly, as if greeting both the land and the people. The woman's eyes studied him carefully. "You have come far," she said. Her voice was firm but not unkind. "Do you understand why you are here?" The traveler nodded. "I am learning your ways. I want to respect your people and your land." The woman observed him for a long moment, then motioned for him to follow her. "Then you will stay with us for a time. You will learn not only from her but from all of us. Pay attention. Do not be hasty. Respect is earned, not given." The traveler felt both excitement and anxiety. He realized that this was more than a test. It was an opportunity to truly understand a culture he had only glimpsed before. He followed the woman and the girl into the center of the community, noting the careful way they moved around fires, tools, and children. Every gesture seemed deliberate, purposeful. Throughout the morning, the traveler observed and learned. He helped gather water, carry small loads of firewood, and prepare simple meals. Each task came with instructions, not only about how to complete it, but why it mattered. "Everything has purpose," the girl reminded him often. "Even the smallest action affects the balance of our life." By midday, he was sweating and tired, but he also felt a growing sense of belonging. The people watched him, but their scrutiny was not harsh. It was careful, assessing whether he could respect their ways. Occasionally, someone would offer advice, correct a mistake, or share a small story about their own experiences. The traveler listened, realizing that these lessons were more valuable than any book he had ever read. As the sun reached its peak, the girl led him aside. "You are learning quickly," she said, "but there is more to understand. You must see that respect is not only about doing the right things, it is about knowing when to speak, when to act, and when to remain silent." She guided him to a quieter area near a small grove of trees. There, she demonstrated how to track animals, not to hunt unnecessarily, but to understand their behavior and the balance of the ecosystem. The traveler watched closely, noting every movement, every subtle clue that revealed the life hidden in the desert. He tried to imitate her, carefully moving as she did, listening to the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. Suddenly, they heard a distant cry. The girl stiffened and motioned for him to remain still. They crouched behind a low rock, peering through the grasses. A small herd of deer emerged from the trees, moving cautiously. The girl whispered, "Watch, learn, do not disturb." The traveler held his breath, fascinated. He had seen deer before, but never with such patience, never with the knowledge of their importance in the cycle of life. The girl pointed out signs in the ground, footprints, broken branches, small marks indicating where the deer had fed. She explained how every detail mattered, how understanding the land meant understanding every creature in it. After the deer moved on, they returned to the community. The traveler felt a mixture of awe and humility. He realized that the girl's teachings were not merely practical. They were lessons in patience, observation, and respect for all life. He began to understand why she had reacted so strongly during their first encounter. Her world demanded vigilance and care, and she could not afford to allow mistakes, no matter how innocent. As evening approached, the community gathered around a central fire. The traveler sat quietly, listening as the girl and others shared stories. They spoke of ancestors, of battles fought to protect the land, of lessons learned from hardship, and of the importance of unity. The traveler understood that these stories were not just history, they were guidance, shaping the values and actions of every person in the community. The girl glanced at him occasionally, her eyes calm but observant. She saw his fatigue, his wonder, and his growing respect for her people. She knew that the lessons were sinking in, though she also knew that understanding was only the first step. Trust, she reminded herself silently, would take longer to earn. That night the traveler lay near the fire, staring up at the stars. The sky was vast and endless, filled with constellations he did not know. Yet, in their patterns, he felt a strange sense of order, similar to the order he had observed in the community. He realized that both the stars and the land required attention, understanding, and respect. He thought of the girl, of her courage, and of the challenges he had yet to face. Despite his exhaustion, he felt hope. He had learned much in a short time, and he knew that each day would bring new lessons. He also felt a growing admiration for the girl who had guided him through this unfamiliar world with such strength and care. She had taught him patience, respect, and observation, and had shown him that survival was about more than strength. It was about understanding, humility, and harmony. As the fire crackled and the community slept, the traveler made a silent promise to himself. He would continue to learn, to listen, and to honor the trust placed in him. He knew that the days ahead would bring tests, both of skill and of character, but he also knew that he had taken an important step toward understanding a world far different from his own. And as he drifted into a deep sleep, he felt the presence of the girl nearby, watchful, strong, and steady. Her guidance had brought him this far, and he knew that with her help, he could face whatever challenges awaited. The desert night stretched endlessly, quiet and alive, and for the first time he felt that he was not merely surviving, he was beginning to belong. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert landscape. The traveler woke feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, he would face one of the most important challenges since arriving, gaining the trust of the girl's people beyond mere observation. The lessons so far had prepared him for survival, but now he would have to show respect in action, to prove he could honor the traditions he had only begun to understand. The girl appeared at the edge of the clearing, her expression serious but calm. She carried a small bundle of tools and motioned for him to follow. Today, you will participate in tasks that test not only your skills but your understanding of respect and responsibility, she said. You must pay attention. One mistake can have consequences for both of us. The traveler nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He understood that this was no longer just about learning. This was about showing that he could be trusted. He followed her closely as she led him to the center of the community, where several adults and children were preparing for the day's work. The first task was gathering firewood from the surrounding hills. At first it seemed simple, but the girl quickly explained that there was a right way to do it. Do not take too much from one area, she instructed. Balance is important. Take only what you need and leave the rest for the land and the animals." The traveler worked carefully, selecting branches that had fallen naturally, avoiding live trees or fragile plants. He felt the weight of responsibility in every movement, knowing that even a small misstep could be seen as disrespect. The girl observed silently, her eyes sharp, noting his attention to detail and the care he took with each piece of wood. After gathering enough wood, they returned to the community, where the traveler helped start fires under the careful guidance of several adults. He learned how to position the wood, how to ignite it safely, and how to maintain the flames. One small mistake caused smoke to rise toward a group of children, and he quickly corrected it, showing his willingness to learn and adapt. The girl nodded approvingly, recognizing his effort and humility. Next, they moved on to preparing food for the community. The traveler watched as the girl and others worked together, grinding grains, chopping vegetables, and cooking over open flames. He was assigned to help with the grains, carefully measuring and mixing under the instructions of a wise woman who had already begun to observe him closely. "You must pay attention," the woman said gently but firmly. "Even the simplest task matters. Respect the work, and it will show respect for the people you serve." The traveler followed her directions, noticing how every step had a purpose. He learned to appreciate the rhythm of the community, the way everyone contributed, the way small actions built toward the well-being of all. It was a lesson not only in work but in connection, showing him that respect was demonstrated in both effort and intention. As midday approached, the girl led him aside. "Now comes a more difficult challenge," she said. "You must show that you can handle responsibility in a situation that may test your courage and judgment." They walked toward the edge of a small canyon, where the sounds of distant water filled the air. "Some of our people are gathering herbs near the stream," she explained. "You must go with them and help, but you must also be alert. The land has dangers that may not be obvious. Watch carefully and follow instructions." The traveler nodded and joined the group. They moved slowly along the banks of the stream, pointing out plants used for medicine and cautioning him about slippery rocks and hidden holes. As they worked, the traveler realized how much the girl's lessons had prepared him. He moved with care, imitating her movements, listening to the subtle signs in the environment and observing the elder's guidance. Suddenly, a branch snapped nearby, startling him. He froze, but the girl's sharp voice reached him across the stream. "Stay calm, observe, assess before acting." He took a deep breath and looked around. A small group of deer had startled and moved quickly through the brush. He smiled quietly, relieved, and realized that this was part of the lesson: patience, awareness, and the ability to respond without panic. The elders noticed his composure and nodded subtly. The girl's eyes met his, and for a moment he felt a quiet approval, a recognition that he was learning to adapt to their ways. After gathering the herbs, they returned to the community. The traveler felt both pride and humility. He had followed instructions, remained alert, and earned a small measure of trust. Yet he knew that trust was fragile, and that each day would bring new tests. As evening approached, the girl gathered him near the fire. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will face another kind of challenge, one that tests not only your skills but your understanding of our people's values. You must act with respect, honesty, and courage. Only then will you begin to be accepted." The traveler nodded solemnly. He felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The challenges ahead were unknown, but he trusted the girl's guidance and the lessons he had learned so far. He also felt a growing admiration for her strength and wisdom. She had navigated this land for years, trained in traditions he could barely understand, yet she had taken the time to teach him carefully and patiently. That night, as the fire crackled, he reflected on the events of the day. He had learned more than he had imagined possible in just a few short days. He understood the importance of observing, listening, and moving carefully. He realized that every action had consequences, and that respect for the land and its people was essential for survival and harmony. The girl sat quietly beside him, watching the flames. "You have done well," she said softly, "but tomorrow will be harder. You must remember everything you have learned. Your actions will be judged not by me alone, but by the community. Do you understand?" "I understand," the traveler replied. "I will do my best. I want to honor your trust and the lessons you have given me." She nodded, her expression serious. "Then rest. Tomorrow begins another step. And remember, courage is not just about strength. It is about listening, learning, and acting with care." As the night deepened, the traveler lay back and stared at the stars. The vast desert sky stretched endlessly above him, filled with countless points of light. He thought about the girl, her people, and the lessons he had learned. He realized that the journey was no longer just about survival. It was about understanding, respect, and the courage to face challenges with humility. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of the day's events. He saw the hills, the stream, and the faces of the community he was slowly beginning to know. He felt a quiet sense of determination. No matter what tomorrow brought, he would continue to learn, to respect, and to prove himself worthy of the trust the girl had placed in him. In the quiet of the desert night, he understood something important. The girl's challenge had not been merely about obedience or survival. It was about guiding him to see the world as she did, with careful eyes, a patient heart, and a respect for the life around him. That understanding would carry him forward, even into difficulties he could not yet imagine. As the fire's glow dimmed and the community settled into sleep, the traveler felt a growing bond with the girl. She had guided him, taught him, and challenged him, not out of anger, but out of care, responsibility, and the desire to ensure that he could survive and thrive in a world far different from his own. He drifted into deep sleep, ready to face the challenges of tomorrow, knowing that courage, respect, and understanding were the keys to navigating the complex world of the girl and her people. And with that thought, he felt a quiet confidence that, with care and attention, he could meet whatever trials awaited him in the days ahead. The morning light spread gently over the hills, bringing with it a sense of anticipation. Today would be the day the traveler faced his final lessons, the day that would determine not only how the community saw him, but also how he truly understood the values of the land, the people, and the girl who had guided him. He rose quietly, feeling a mixture of nervousness and determination. Every step he had taken so far had brought him to this point, and he knew that he could not afford to falter now. The girl was already awake, standing near the edge of the clearing with a small bundle of supplies. She watched him with sharp, steady eyes. "Today will test everything you have learned," she said. "Your actions, your patience, and your respect. You must remember that courage is shown not in words alone, but in how you behave and how you respond to challenges. Do you understand?" "I understand," the traveler replied, his voice firm. He felt the truth of her words in his chest. The lessons of the past days had taught him to think before acting, to observe carefully, and to honor the trust placed in him. The girl led him to the community center, where the elders and other members were already gathered. The sun shone brightly on the gathering, highlighting the intricate patterns of the woven blankets and the careful arrangements of the tools and baskets around them. The traveler took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their watchful eyes. "Today," the girl announced, "he will participate in tasks that require responsibility, understanding, and respect. These are the true measures of a person's character." The traveler stepped forward, determined to show what he had learned. The first task involved repairing a section of the community's small irrigation system. Water from a nearby stream had been diverted to nourish crops, and a minor blockage needed careful attention. The elders demonstrated how to remove stones, clear the channels, and ensure the water flowed smoothly. At first, the traveler hesitated, unsure if his hands would be careful enough. But he remembered the girl's guidance, patience, observation, respect, and he began to work. He moved slowly, checking each stone, listening to the sound of water, and following the instructions precisely. The elders observed silently, noting how carefully he handled the task, and the girl smiled faintly, recognizing his growing confidence and understanding. Once the irrigation system was repaired, the traveler helped prepare food for a communal meal. He carried baskets of grains, measured herbs for flavor, and assisted in cooking over the open fires. Each step required attention, care, and cooperation. He realized that this was more than just a physical task. It was a test of character, showing that he could work respectfully alongside the people and honor the shared responsibility of the community. After the meal was prepared, the girl took him aside once more. "Now comes the final challenge," she said. "It is not about skill, but about understanding the people and their ways. You must demonstrate respect, courage, and honesty in a situation that will require all you have learned." They walked to the edge of a nearby hill, where a young child had wandered too close to a steep drop. The child's parents were calling, anxious but unable to reach him safely. The traveler could see the fear in their eyes, and he felt a rush of urgency. "Remember your lessons," the girl whispered. "Patience, observation, respect. You must act carefully." He approached the child slowly, speaking softly to calm him. "It's all right," he said. "We will help you." He extended a hand, making sure to stay at a safe distance from the edge while encouraging the child to move backward. The child hesitated, scared, but the traveler's calm, steady voice reassured him. With careful steps, the traveler guided the child back to safety. The parents rushed forward, hugging their child and thanking the traveler for his quick thinking and bravery. The girl watched silently, a proud smile touching her lips. This moment was the culmination of everything she had taught him: patience, courage, understanding, and respect for life. The elders gathered around, nodding in approval. "You have shown skill, care, and respect," one of them said. "You have earned the trust of our people." The traveler felt a warm sense of relief and gratitude. He realized that trust was not given lightly, but earned through consistent effort, humility, and respect. The girl stepped forward and spoke to the traveler. "You have learned well," she said. "You understand our land, our people, and our ways. You have shown courage, patience, and respect. You may now walk among us with honor." The traveler felt a deep sense of accomplishment. It was more than just surviving in a new land. It was about understanding a culture, earning trust, and forming connections built on respect and care. He looked at the girl, realizing that her guidance had been the key to his success. She had taught him more than survival. She had shown him the values that made her people strong and resilient. As the day went on, the traveler continued to participate in the community's activities. He helped tend the crops, fetch water, and prepare meals, each action now done with confidence and understanding. The people welcomed his efforts, offering advice and encouragement. He realized that he was no longer an outsider simply passing through. He was a part of the community, respected for his willingness to learn and his careful, respectful behavior. Later, as the sun began to set, the traveler and the girl sat quietly on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley. The sky was painted in shades of orange, pink, and purple, and the wind carried the scent of herbs and earth. The traveler felt a deep sense of peace. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I could not have done this without you. You taught me more than I could have imagined." The girl smiled, a mixture of warmth and pride in her expression. "You did the work," she said. "I only guided you. You listened, you observed, and you acted with care. That is what matters." They sat together in silence for a while, watching the valley below. The traveler realized that his journey had changed him. He had come seeking knowledge, but he had found much more: understanding, respect, courage, and a connection to a people, and a land that had seemed distant and mysterious at first. As night fell, the community gathered around a large fire to celebrate the traveler's achievements. The elders spoke of his efforts, praising his patience, respect, and courage. The girl stood beside him, her presence a quiet reminder of the lessons he had learned. The traveler felt honored, humbled, and grateful. During the celebration, children played nearby, laughing and dancing, while adults shared stories and songs. The traveler joined in, moving carefully at first, then more freely as he felt the acceptance of the community. He realized that this was a moment of belonging, of being part of something greater than himself. Later, as the fire burned low and the stars filled the sky, the traveler and the girl walked together along a quiet trail. The wind whispered softly through the grasses, carrying the scent of the earth and the warmth of the day. "You have done well," the girl said softly. "Remember what you have learned. Respect, patience, and courage will guide you wherever you go." "I will," the traveler replied. "I will carry these lessons with me always." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And remember, trust is not a one-time gift. It is built every day through actions and care. You have begun that journey here, and it will continue wherever you go." The traveler felt a deep sense of understanding. He realized that his time in the community had not only taught him survival and respect, but had also shown him the value of trust, patience, and humility. He knew that these lessons would stay with him forever, guiding him in every challenge and every encounter. As they returned to the clearing, the traveler felt a quiet joy. He had faced challenges, learned new ways, earned trust, and formed a bond with a remarkable girl who had guided him with care and wisdom. He understood now that the true journey was not just about traveling through land, but about traveling through understanding, respect, and human connection. That night, the traveler lay beneath the stars, the cool desert air brushing against his skin. He thought of the girl, her people, and the lessons he had learned. He felt gratitude, pride, and a quiet sense of belonging. The journey had changed him, and he knew that he would never forget the courage, wisdom, and care that had guided him through the days he had spent in the desert. As sleep overtook him, he dreamed not only of the land and the community, but of the values and understanding he had gained. The desert night was calm, the stars endless, and the traveler knew that, no matter where his path led next, he would carry the lessons of respect, courage, and trust with him forever. And in that quiet, timeless desert, the traveler finally understood what it meant to truly belong, not by force or chance, but through learning, listening, and living with care in a world that demanded patience, courage, and respect.